Hello everyone. I thought I'd try something new this year. I've got a webcam and thought I'd make it a little more personal to be able to at least talk with you at least one direction, I guess. It'd be nice if we could get this two-way. Like you, I missed the in-person classes. Seems like we never see each other. You don't have a face to relate to, so at least we have some technology with the webcams and stuff that we can use. So thought I'd try this webcam as a way to make it a little more informal and talk with you tonight about our class project. I'm just now getting them posted online and wanted to kind of go over it with you, the document, the assignment document that you have, because it's a little, it may be a little intimidating. You got 11 pages, and I wanted to try to put you at ease and explain to you uh, just sort of informally what I'm looking for in these projects, and just to emphasize that we're still in 100 level classes, so I'm not expecting that you're going to give me some elaborate management plan on this kind of a project. We're doing an environmental assessment, but you're going to have a chance to apply the skills that you've learned in the fall classes and that you're learning in the spring classes now. And not just this class, but the other GIS classes that you're taking, you'll get a chance to apply some of those skills on this project. And so it should give you a good opportunity to experiment, practice a little bit with the skills. I think I've built in, or at least I've tried to build in, a lot of flexibility into the project. And you'll also be working in teams on this project, so you have other people that can help you to do the work. So you're not, and no one person is shouldering the brunt of all this work. So keep that in mind as you look through this. Try not to be intimidated by it. I've tried to explain everything very thoroughly, which is why it's so long. But I think if you take your time, read through it, and maybe read through it twice if you need to, just to kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about in here. And so we'll go through this step by step, and I'll try to explain to you verbally what you're reading. So first thing, this project, it's dealing with an environmental assessment, and there's a few reasons for that. One, GIS, when GIS first really got started back in the 60s into the 70s, much of the work in GIS was environmental related. It was some type of natural resource application, because that was some of the earliest users of the technology. The spatial analysis components of GIS is very well suited to doing some kind of an assessment, a natural resources type assessment. So that's one reason we're doing it. Another reason is my own kind of personal bias. My background is in, as I've explained elsewhere, I think, but my background is in forestry, and it's actually in forestry and in wilderness management. When I got my first master's degree at Virginia Tech, my focus was on wilderness management and planning. And I was trying to use GIS back then, like you guys are using it now. And so it was a little bit of a bipolar. You've got the extreme spectrum of the natural world on one hand, and you've got high technology using computers and computer mapping on the other end. But to me, I guess the bipolar nature of it was well suited to me, and so I was an early user, I guess you could say, of GIS in that field. And so that's an interest I've had for a long time. And even though I don't do that any longer, it's still very near and dear to my heart. So that's another reason, I guess, my own personal bias for introducing this. And then the third reason is I wanted to come up with something that would get everybody sort of on the same page. Like if you've been in, some of you might have taken my 220 class in the past, or one of the 200 level classes, even the 210 class last fall. You'll notice that I tend to leave the projects pretty open-ended. I'll give you some guidelines, but I'll let you pick the topic and you pick the study area, and it's pretty wide open in terms of what you do, or at least the study areas that you choose. With this class, what I wanted to do is get everybody sort of on the same page. So we're all going to work with a wilderness setting, either a designated wilderness or a potential wilderness that's got a lot of wilderness characteristics. So we're all dealing with a remote natural setting. And we have 3 teams this year and 4 people on each team. I think one team's going to have 5. But we're going to have 4 or 5 people on a team, 1 for each of the main 4 subject areas, and I think this will make it more interesting in a lot of ways, because we'll all have different areas. Everybody will pick an independent area, and it's, by the way, it's kind of a first come first serve. So just a tip, if you feel real strongly about one of the areas that's listed on the first page, get with your team, make sure everybody's in agreement, and then have the team leader or somebody get in touch with me right away to let me know that study area that you've chosen. So we don't want to overlap and get more than one team on the same study area. So I think that will make it interesting. We'll have some diversity that way. And it will be interesting for you, and this is yet another reason I do the project in this format, is because I find that people tend to, navigate to places that are close to home in a lot of the studies. And that's only natural because that's the areas we're most familiar with. But in this case, other than the Smoky Mountains, which is, I think, one of the sites I have listed, you'll find that all of the other areas are spread throughout the country. And part of that is intentional, because I'm trying to get you to sort of reach out of your comfort zone, so to speak. I want to get everybody to look at an area that you may not have even been to before. Because it shows the true power of GIS when you find that even if you've not visited a place before, you're still able to pull out a lot of resource information from what's available online and consolidate that into a project. And so I think that will make it very interesting for you. And by the time you finish with this project, you'll hopefully feel much more comfortable to reach outside of your local zone. And at the same time, hopefully get familiar with an area that you've always wanted to learn a little bit more about as well. So we've got a big range of potential study areas, and I'm just going to read through a few of them on the front page. We've got the John Muir Wilderness area in California. We've got areas in Colorado, such as Maroon Bells and Weminuche wildernesses. Back in California, again, we've got the Sequoia Kings Canyon Wilderness. Up in Washington, we've got Mount Rainier. In Oregon, we've got Three Sisters. Back in California, again, we've got the Yosemite Wilderness. So these are all designated. These are areas that contain designated official wilderness areas. So these are the real deal. And so these are the real deal. So we also have some areas that you could say qualify for wilderness, but for one reason or another haven't been officially designated. Oftentimes it's because these areas are in national parks already and they're somewhat protected as wilderness anyway. And so a lot of these areas we could consider suitable for wilderness, but not officially designated as wilderness. And the ones I have on the list there would be Canyonlands National Park in Utah, Crater Lake out in Oregon, Glacier National Park up in Montana, the Smoky Mountains here in North Carolina and Tennessee, Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument up in Washington, Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, or Yellowstone National Park, which is so big it takes up parts of 3 states. I mean, most of it's in Wyoming, but a little bit of it goes into Montana and some of it over into Idaho. So you can see we've got a really good range, I think, of different potential study areas for you. And hopefully you'll find something that of interest in this list. So your first task is you'll get together in your groups. You'll be doing a lot of emailing back and forth. You might occasionally be on the phone together back and forth. And some of you might be face-to-face. A little more about that later. But get together, figure out the study area that you'd like to use as a group, make sure everybody's contributed to that, and then let me know and which area you've selected. So just to back up a little bit, I'm kind of looking at the sheet here. I've got it on screen and in front of me, and I can't see it really good on the screen. So just some overall boundaries about this. Again, we're dealing with wilderness areas or the equivalents. The project is not due until May 1st, which is Wednesday. It's on a Wednesday. So it's right at the very end of the semester. So you've got not quite 3 months, 2.5 months, something like that to work on it. So you got plenty of time. There's 4 of you at least on a team, so there should be plenty of time to get all of this work done. It's fairly comprehensive, but again, I'm not expecting that we're going to be doing any how do I want to describe it? We're not going to be doing anything we're not comfortable with. In other words, and if you are not comfortable with something, I'll try to help you get comfortable with it through some examples and things like that. I'm mainly interested in getting you to apply some of the spatial technologies that goes with GIS that you'll be learning this semester, and some that you've already learned in terms of working with data. So I'll emphasize that a lot. I want you to be comfortable with this. I want you to enjoy what you're working with. So one of the key things on this is project analyses, okay, as I've said. And so what we'll do is try to pick at least 3. If you want to do more, that's fine, but pick at least 3 potential analyses from the list that I have on the pages here. If you think of something else you'd like to do that's not on this list, then just run it by me. It'd probably be fine, but I'd appreciate you letting me know about it. And I just want to make sure that it's of the caliber of an analysis that you'll need for this. But what I've done is I've broken them down into the 4 topic areas that we're dealing with. I've got some potential analyses under forest management, under recreation management, wildlife management, and demographics. So in those 4 areas, I've listed, as you'll see, a variety of different types of what you could consider potential analyses. Okay, some of these are more of just an assessment. I mean, they're just basically obtaining data layers that's out there already created, and your job is going to be tracking them down, getting them, making sure they're projected properly, and that you can overlay them together with other data. And then sometimes you might do more of a true type analysis where you're actually doing some kind of a calculation, or you're doing some kind of a conversion, you're doing an overlay analysis or something like that. So there's a variety of these analyses here that I've listed, and I've tried to explain just a little bit about them. Some of them we'll talk more about during the class, and some of them I might not get to, and if it's one that you're interested in and you don't feel comfortable with it, let me know and I'll try to cover it or get with you one-on-one through the email about it. But just to go through them really quickly, just these, again, just potential analyses that come to mind as I was working this up. Under forest management, you could do something like forest classification, where you're looking at the vegetation that's on the sites, and you're trying to group those into maybe what we call forest stands, something like that. And again, some of this work has already been done for many of these areas, and so a lot of times you can obtain those layers and maybe massage them a little bit, make them to where they're easy to understand. You might change the color shading on them and so forth. Just basically trying to identify what's there in terms of the forest cover, okay? And another one will be like a water assessment, where we obtain some fairly detailed level data on streams, and some of this could be out of the DLG data, the digital line graph that we talked about last fall. And that's a good source, remember, for the precision. The Tiger data also has water information in it, and you might use that. And remember, that does have labels with it. The disadvantage is it's not quite as precise on accuracy. So you might use either or, the combination of the two there. And other types of information. There's the water bodies layer in the Tiger data as well. You're basically going to want to identify where the streams are, where any lakes are, and things like that. And then potentially categorize it based on some kind of variable. Like it might be whether it's a creek versus river. It might be whether it's ephemeral or perennial. That means like ephemeral, it mainly flows during the wet season, then it dries up in the summertime, or perennial, they're flowing year-round. Some of that information's out there already, depending on your study area. Again, it might just take a little detective work on your part to find that. And I'll share with you locations, by the way, of where you can get data as well. In fact, I think I mentioned in this week's materials that I'll post a data sources page pretty soon to let you know, at least get you started in the right direction on where to look for data. You can always search on your own, and nowadays it's pretty easy to find a lot of information out there. So didn't used to be that way, but now it's almost information overload. So back to the analyses, you know, you get a DEM analysis, which again is mainly just processing data, but I would consider it an analysis. You're going through and you're working up the data, you're converting it. You might even mosaic them together if you want, things like that. That gives you a good, and that's a popular one, and I really recommend doing that one, by the way, because it gives you a nice terrain map that you can use in throughout your projects. Now, by the way, some of these layers you're going to share amongst the group. In other words, you're going to have 4 people, and the DEM might be a layer that more than one of those people need to use. Well, there's no need for all 4 of you to create the DEM layer. You know, one person should create those base type layers and then share them with each other in the group, so that you're sharing the workload that way. Fire hazard potential, that's another one you might do, and that might be an actual analysis where you're combining vegetation with some climate data, or with slope or aspect data. You know, I oftentimes talk with other foresters in the past. You know, it's kind of well known that on the south and west facing slopes tend to be drier in a lot of cases, and the north and eastern slopes wetter. And so, you know, you might look at aspect, some combination of aspect, slope, because the steeper an area is, the greater hazard it is if it is burning, because fire will race up slope a lot quicker. So you can look at a combination of layers out there to come up with your fire hazard potential. And then finally, viewshed analysis, which is another pretty neat one to do. You might do that in combination with something like locating a fire tower or something like that. Under recreation management, we've got several there that I've listed. Some type of an overall recreation assessment, you know, such as identifying where the campgrounds are, picnic areas, hiking trails, anything that has something to do with recreation in the immediate area or in the vicinity. Like you might be looking around your wilderness area too, just to see where it's lacking. And I don't mean a long ways away from it, but around the edges of it, you might look into what's there. Oftentimes there's campgrounds and things more developed, for example, that are on the outskirts of the wilderness area. And a lot of times people will use those as a starting off point for going into the wilderness area. Once you're in the wilderness area, the campgrounds tend to be very primitive and not developed, but they'll oftentimes be designated areas for camping. ROS, WOS, this will talk, I'll share with you some publications about this. This is just kind of a concept, and I throw this in here, again, partly my own bias, but I think it's kind of an intriguing concept, and it'd be interesting to see somebody work up something to do with GIS using this concept, I think. So I threw it in there. If you're ambitious and want to take this on, I'd be glad to work with you more on it. But what it is it's mainly a system for classifying how wild the wilderness is, if you want to look at it that way. We've got, for example, you've got more intensely used, and it's mainly dealing with human use of the area, by the way. And you're looking at, say, you've got, say, 100,000 acres. And in that 100,000 acres, you've got hiking trails and some campgrounds and so forth, where those areas are used a lot more than just a little distance from the trail. Like if you buffered 100 feet buffer around the trails, your use of that area past that 100 feet is dramatically less than it is near the trail, because very, very few people get off trails. It's just a fact. So, so you've got different impact zones, kind of. So if you're a manager going to manage these areas, then you need to know where to focus your efforts, and you need to know what kind of an opportunity you're going to provide. So that's where the ROS stands for Recreation Opportunity Spectrum. WOS is something I made up that I'm calling Wilderness Opportunity Spectrum. And so the Recreation Opportunity Spectrum and actually looks at the whole range of recreation developed. It's not just wilderness, it's the whole spectrum. And when you get into like something with a WOS, you really would be looking at that zone that's just in the wilderness part of that zone. But again, like I mentioned, you're going to have different levels of use within a wilderness area. So that's something to think about, and I think it's kind of intriguing and be interesting to see if we could use GIS to identify those different zones of remoteness, basically, in these areas. And the idea also being here that once you have that information, you can easily or more easily then direct people on where they might go to obtain a certain type of experience. So believe it or not, there's actually some people that like to get off trail and would really enjoy having the information made available to them about where they could go to have different types of experiences. So that's something that I've kind of thrown in there as an extra. Back on the list, a potential recreation impact assessment. So there again, looking at just how heavily used the existing recreation sites might be. For example, if you've got a backcountry camping area that's not very far into the wilderness, like a lot of places tend to have, that area is going to likely receive a lot more use than other camping areas still within the wilderness but further back. And so you might look at identifying some of those kind of areas in terms of which ones have greater potential to be overused and therefore might need more management interference to try to either restore some of those areas or minimize the impact on those areas. Or even in highly used areas, you might even have to identify use limits on these areas or something. A trails assessment, that again, that's just identifying the existing hiking trail system that's there. It might be horse trails, hiking trails, both. And again, a lot of these areas already have those defined, especially the ones in the parks. The ones that are in the national forest might be a little less likely to have them already mapped out for you. And so part of your work might be doing some heads-up digitizing to identify some of those trails. If you're dealing with an area that's rather large, like most of these are, and you just cannot find a hiking trail layer already created, while it'd be neat if you could identify all of them and heads up digitize them, that might be more work than you've got time for. So you have to kind of balance that out, see how many you're looking at, and in a worst case scenario, like say you're using Yellowstone, for example, really, really large park, and of course they've got a trails layer already available. But just as an example, if they didn't, then what I would do is probably work in one section of the park, maybe one of the southeast quadrant of the park or something for identifying my trails. But just see what you've got available first, and we'll go from there. Most of these areas, again, already have those already created into a layer, and it's just a matter of finding those layers and getting them, making sure you can overlay them and things like that. Backcountry camp locations, again, it's a little redundant. Some of these have a lot of overlap. We've been already talking about some of that, so I'll enough said on that. Wildlife management. Here's an area a lot of people enjoy the wildlife aspect of it, and you're mainly looking at habitat related issues. It could be habitat suitability. You might identify a habitat suitability index, they call it, where you are looking at certain species. Like I had somebody, for example, a year or so ago, I think, looked at Arches National Park, and they identified the areas of the park that was most suitable for bighorn sheep. And so they ended up looking at the steep cliffs near the entrance of the park, and they took a number of variables. They did a little research, and I realized that most of you are not, wildlife people. Some of you may not even consider yourselves very outdoorsy type people, But I think most everybody, through talking with you informally through email and things like that over time, I think a lot of you, at least I know, have shared with me that you are interested in this stuff. So you already know some of these things if you are. If not, then it's not hard to figure them out. And again, I'm not looking for everything to be scientifically precise. I'm not going to knock you down on a grade because you made a wrong assumption, for example. What I'm more concerned about is that you identify your assumptions, whatever they may be, right or wrong. If you have to make them up, make them up. That said, I would try to use something realistic. But if you get a real pinch and you picked a species and you just can't find anything about it, then create some of your own assumptions for it. Because the idea here is that if you make an assumption and you identify that assumption, then your analysis becomes repeatable. In other words, somebody else could take your set of assumptions and run through an analysis and should get the same results that you got. That's what I'm wanting you to practice with here. And I think that's why the natural areas, some type of natural resource area, is going to be really well suited to this project because it gives you some very good boundaries that you can use for defining your assumptions. So again, you don't have to make these overly complicated. In some cases, one or two or three at most variables into maybe a model kind of thing is really as complicated as you're going to want to ever get. And by the time you finish with the class, you should be able to do that. So some of the modeling stuff we may not get to till later in the class, but you're basically just looking at a few variables, making assumptions about them, breaking them into some kind of a category like moderate, light, heavy, if it's some kind of use, for example. Or, if it's slope, you might look at level, moderate, and steep, or something like that, and you break your data into categories to identify that. So if you're looking at habitat suitability, you're going to want to look at more than one variable, but again, 2 or 3 is plenty. But something that would let you identify the areas that is most suitable to whatever species of wildlife you're looking at. And I wouldn't try to pick too many species on this neither. 1, 2, 3, that's fine. Probably more than one, but two or three is good. And that's one analysis you could do on wildlife. Just a wildlife assessment is another one. You might take some existing, and this is one that's going to be dependent on finding existing information, of course, but you might basically just on your map show the areas where wildlife are now from studies that have been already conducted. So you might look at which areas of the park or wilderness do they tend to find the grizzly bear in, if it's at Yellowstone, and things like that. So there's information out there. You have to do a little research on it again, but I think you'll find something for many of these areas. And if not those areas, you'll find something in an area close by that you could make some assumptions from and apply to your area. So again, if you got questions about this as we get into it throughout the semester, you can always contact me and we'll work together on it. Another one might be wildlife viewing opportunities. And again, this one might be dependent on some of the other information. Once you've done an assessment, then you could real easily identify areas where certain pull-offs on the roads and things like that could be created that you could find most likely to see certain types of wildlife. Of course, we're dealing with wilderness areas here, and you're not going to have a road in there, but you might have a road on the outside edge of some of these areas. And then you also could use the trail system. So you could identify which areas on some of the trails are going to be most suited for viewing certain types of wildlife, for example. And then finally, potential human, wildlife and human conflict areas. So where you've got grizzly bears, for example, in Yellowstone, you've got a potential, if it's near a hiking trail, you've got a potential for a conflict there between humans and grizzly bears. And this could be the case for a wide variety of animals. The buffalo in Yellowstone, again, they tend to congregate in herds in certain areas, a lot of times in open areas and stuff. So, knowing where they tend to congregate, knowing where the trail systems are, you might be able to identify certain parts of the trail system that are more likely to have some kind of a conflict area. And these would just basically be red flag areas where you would managers would want to know about, to be alert to in case they have any of these kind of conflicts potentials. Demographics, finally. Here we're mainly looking at population related things, of course, but what you might do, and what I had in mind with this, was perhaps looking at the population that immediately surrounds your wilderness area, and maybe step out another buffer from that and look at the population there. So you're kind of looking at the potential customers in a way that live close to an area. Now, of course, people travel long distances to visit these parks and things like that. I'm not expecting you to do some kind of analysis way away from the park, but mainly just try to get some kind of a demographic profile of the population surrounding the park. And again, that could be in 2 or 3 different buffer zones. Come out some, like within 25 miles of the park, and within 75 miles of the park, and within 125 miles of the park, or something like that. Doing a roads assessment is always a good thing, even though this is outside the wilderness area. A lot of times they're not very far away, and that's going to be your main access to get to the wilderness area. So doing some kind of a roads analysis within a certain radius of your wilderness area would be interesting. And you might identify the types of roads. Do we have graveled roads? How many, and how many miles of that versus paved roads? And are those paved roads state highway or federal highway, or just county roads? Some of that information is available, and I think you can identify some of that. I've got an urban areas assessment, and that's mainly for like an area that, again, you could do the buffer zone approach, and this might be more applicable if you've got a little bit of a larger population base not far from your area. So if we were doing one here in the east, the Cohutta Wilderness is a good example in North Georgia, and the city of Atlanta is not too far away. So you might do similar kinds of things as the population assessment, but focus it on an urban area or something if you had a population that's reasonably close to your area like that. And then finally, I've got a potential visitor assessment. And again, this one you're going to have to really create some assumptions for. But you could create some assumptions and then look at that population that surrounds your area and maybe come up with an idea of about how many people you might expect to visit that area. And again, I'm more interested in you making some assumptions and documenting them than them being very, very accurate. For example, you don't know the population around an area, probably. I wouldn't. And so I wouldn't be able to say what percentage of people are going to come to this wilderness area, but you might make some assumptions and say, well, out of this many people, and looking at the age groups, the race and age, I'm going to assume that this group is going to have a certain percentage that likes to go to the outdoors, and this group has a certain, maybe different percentage, and just pull some numbers out there. Just make some assumptions and use that to come up with an idea about how many people you might expect to visit an area in a given year or something. And then look at the seasonality of that use. If it's an area that has rough winters and it's pretty inaccessible, which most of the wilderness areas are going to be pretty remote, then your use is probably going to really drop off in the winter season. So that would be interesting to see. So there's a lot of things you could do there. And these are just some examples I've thrown out for you. And I think you'll be able to find something in each of these. Try to do at least 3 per person, but pull from your category. So if you're the forestry person, then try to just pull your analysis out of the forestry category. So this gives you plenty of things to choose from, and it also lets me know what you're working on, because I'll ask you here pretty soon to let me know which analysis you think you're going to use. You'll be able to change that if you want to later, but at least it will let me know kind of where you're going with things. So that's a little bit about the analyses. Project organization, let me say just a little bit about that, and I'll kind of summarize what I have here instead of going through it verbatim. But because we're still developing our GIS skills, I think it's really important to get some practice with organization of your data and organization from a team perspective, to practice with with just making this efficient and effective, trying to be very organized in how you set up your data files, for example. And I'll give you a sample folder structure like I did for those of you that were in the 210 class last semester. I think I gave you one there. Well, I have another one made up that's sort of from a team perspective. And that will give you just one example. You can change it. You can use a different one if you want. But I wanted to at least give you an example to go from on how you might organize this project, because you're going to be working independently. So it's going to be an interesting exercise, to say the least, in how you organize this stuff. And I'll give you some tips along the way that I think will help you a lot with that. So don't panic about that. What I'm trying to do is set it up in a way that you can work somewhat independently, but do it in a way that will make it easy to merge all of your data together at the end. So you've got a team leader that's kind of coordinating things. And by the way, don't let the team leader try to do all of the work in this area. That wasn't the reason for identifying a team leader. The team leader's job is, a big part of the job is mainly coordinating, communicating, making sure that everybody's aware of what they're supposed to be doing, and getting people's input, keeping people informed with what others are doing. And they will coordinate pulling information together, but you've got to help them to do that, and don't just dump a bunch of stuff on their lap and expect them to kind of organize it for you. If you do this right, the right way to do this is to up front identify your organization, and the team leader will coordinate the communication on this, but everybody contribute ideas. Take a look at the folder structure I'm going to give you and see if you can tweak it and make it work for you before you ever start collecting any data. Okay, so you get your basically your shell of your file folder system in place, and then you start getting your information together. So if you do it right, do it smartly, you'll be able to pull this information together without breaking any of your links. And I'll be going over this quite a bit here in the next few weeks, so you'll hear a lot about it. But think of it from that perspective when I say organizing your data. It's not just organizing it like you would in the other classes where you're doing a project by yourself. You got to do it in a way that also allows the team's work to get pulled together at the end. So it's a little more to this than maybe some of the other classes, but it's a really good exercise to go through. And by the time you're done with this class, I promise you, you're going to be very comfortable with working with files and folders. And I can't emphasize how important that is. I mean, I've worked with this stuff for years, and I can tell you one of the most important things is organizing your data. And it's just something that you can't emphasize enough. And so I think it's really important to give you practice in doing this. So that's very important. The team leader, again, as I mentioned, their role is a lot of it's communicating, being a sounding board, being somebody you can go to if you have questions. And I'm always here as well, so I don't want to take me out of that loop. I just want to make sure that you guys are coordinating, communicating as a team. And if you need to come to me with a question or anything, that's perfectly fine. And what you'll find is that I'll probably copy your team leader on a lot of things when we do that, so that I'm keeping the team leader in the loop as well. So that I think the team leader needs to be informed with what's going on, so that they can make final decisions, for the group. So from the team leader's perspective, now you're looking at trying to involve people, trying to make sure that everybody has a voice in your project. From the team member's perspective, you've got to really step up and be participative. You've got to be communicative. You've got to be sort of on top of things, and together you guys will come up with some target dates and things like that. I've started you a list near the end of this project handout that's basically just the start of a calendar of some things that I know are going on in certain weeks. And then what I'm expecting from you, you'll see some blank dots there, and you can just add to that list as you guys come up with your own timeline that you weave into this mix. I realize a lot of you are taking other classes. Some of you are taking a lot of classes. So you'll have to sort of balance the load on all of this. Again, it's not meant to be overwhelming. This is sort of meant to be realistic. I'm not expecting that you're going to be doing graduate level work on this stuff. So don't panic in that regard. The main things here are practice at getting organized with things, practice at applying skills that you're learning and that you've already learned, and practice at working together as a team. We don't do a lot of group projects. I think this might, well, no, I think Pat is doing a group project in some of you have the project management class, so you're doing a group project in there. But other than these two classes, you don't really work as a team on any of these other projects. So this gets you, and it's realistic that you do that though, because when you get out of the classes and you're out of the school, the odds are if you're working somewhere with GIS, you're going to be working as a team. And so you're going to have other people that you're working with, reporting to or reporting to you. And so you're going to want to be comfortable with doing that. And so I realize from a personal perspective, as well as just over the years talking with people, I realize it's more enjoyable doing the individual projects to a lot of people. But again, there's good reasons for doing this group project. And I think if we do it properly, you'll get a little bit of both. You'll work as a group, but then you'll actually go on your own and do your side of the project. So you'll be working on your part of the project, but you're doing it in a way that you're keeping others informed, sharing data, base data in particular, that each other might need, and then doing it all in a way that is easy for yourselves and the team leader to pull it all together in the end. So that's a lot of what this effort's about. What else to say? A public involvement meeting. This is just sort of a simulation. It worked better in person, but we'll still try it. In reality, sort of in the real world, when we're doing assessments or plans, management plans, and things like that, you would want to involve the public. Okay, you'll want to get their input onto what you're doing. In this case, we don't really have a public we're reaching out to, so we'll reach out to each other. So we'll all serve as participants in a public involvement meeting, and we'll do this through a discussion board. And what I'll do is set up probably next week, we'll start it next week or the following week, and we'll give you a chance to kind of comment on each other. And you can ask questions, basic things like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this kind of analysis, something with the trails, and what would you recommend I use for a buffer zone on the trail system? Or I'm doing my wildlife assessment. I'm interested in bighorn sheep, and does anybody have any input or experience with bighorn sheep that they'd like to share that I might need to consider on my analysis? Things like that. So it's just kind of for fun, but it's also, I think, can be helpful to you if done properly. So it gives us a chance to do that aspect of it anyway. Data management, like I mentioned already, that's a big part of this project. In the end, you're going to have a lot of data. You know how much data you get when you're doing the individual projects. So just think when you've got a group working on the projects, how much data you can get. So there's some important things here, and we'll emphasize this a lot over the coming weeks. So keep that in mind, but start thinking about it now. And one of the things to keep in mind is, everybody's going to need certain base data. And what I encourage people to do is right off the bat, start collecting your base data before you start doing or worrying too much about your analyses other than, roughly what you think you want to do. You need to know what base data to get. But then focus on getting that base data and doing it in a way to where each member of the group is participating on some aspect of that. And then you'll share that data together. And then once you've done that, then you're more ready to go off a little bit individually and work on your part of the project, because you'll have the same base data that the person over here has, and you'll both be pulling it out of the same subfolder. Even though the data will literally be on more than one computer, it will be organized in subfolders in the same way. So your project links will all go back to that same folder. So those of you that had the fall classes know what I mean. The idea here is to try to minimize the red exclamation marks, okay, the dreaded red exclamation marks. And the way to do that is by keeping a standardized file structure that everybody's using. Similar to what we're doing with our class. I've got you with a GIS-110 folder on your C drive, and then inside that everybody should have a project folder. You also have other folders for other things we're doing, but in that project folder is where you'll be organizing your subfolders as a group. And so everybody will have the same pathway there. So we'll talk more about that over time, but it's important to think about that. What else? Okay, on the website, I'm going to start a section on the website with project tips here pretty soon, and then I'll have that to where I can share with you any thoughts that might come across. What I usually do is make a document, and I just kind of add to that document over the semester. So I'll start that here pretty soon, and then if questions come up and things like that, I can add some answers in there to that to share with everybody. So that'll be a resource for you. And then, another thing you want to do with this project, I've got, draw upon a variety of tools and resources. There's a lot of information out there. And again, you're going to be looking at whatever parts of that you can find for your area, and then as an individual for your part of this project in that area. And again, if you stumble up a little bit, run into some problems, just let me know. I'll be happy to help you look for data, and we'll work together on it. The Park Service used to have a really good site up, and the last time I checked it had moved and it wasn't all functioning. And so hopefully they've got that back up. I'm going to look here soon, and if so, that was a great resource for park specific stuff because they had hiking trails and things like that. Of course, your other base layers such as your aerial imagery, your DEM data, DLG data, Tiger data. You already know of, most of you, a lot of sources where you can get that already. So that would be a lot of your base data there. Just another point to make is these areas are really pretty large. Some of these areas are, most of these areas are hundreds of thousands of acres. And an area like Yellowstone is into the millions. So you're not going to want to try to get 1 to 24,000 scale base data, for example, for the entire area. In a lot of these cases, you might in some of the smaller areas, and it depends on how ambitious you are. I hate to steer you down that direction because that's probably one of the biggest problems that I've seen people have is trying to get too much data, and you end up with so much more than what you can use. On the other hand, you want to focus on some detailed layers for at least part of the area. So what I usually recommend to people is that they start off with some of the county data, and then you might clip that to some vicinity of your boundary. And we'll probably be looking at some examples on clipping and stuff later. I'll try to get something worked up. It's a little challenging with ArcGIS, but if we can clip, some of these counties are really large in the western U.S., for example, especially. And it would really help if we could clip some of that data. So if I have to, I may even clip some of it for you and share it with you or something on the imagery or something like that, especially. But you get your base layers, and then when you get into things like a DEM, for example, what I usually recommend to people to do is to get the small scale DEM data to cover your area. So you might get a 1 to 250,000 scale DEM data because you only need a couple of those quads and it covers all of your area. And from a distance that looks really nice, but when you zoom in, then you start seeing the quality, the resolution breaks down. So what you would do then is the area you're going to do your analysis, like say you're locating a fire tower. Well, you can get the higher quality DEM data, the 1 to 24,000 scale or large scale we call it, for just the area surrounding the area you're analyzing. So you don't have to have that for the whole wilderness area. So you get a little bit of both. And I don't think I've shared with you yet on where to get the 1 to 250,000 scale DEM data, but I will do that. So and I'll show you how to work with that. It's a little bit different than the 1 to 24,000 just because of the way they've got it organized. But that's an example of how you want to be smart about how you collect your data for these areas, and just don't be overwhelmed and feel like you're going to have everything at 1 to 24,000 scale for all of your area. And I realize some of you are probably like me, you have a tendency to want to get that. In fact, I'll share with you something, it's kind of embarrassing, but I thought it was really ambitious, is that At one time, I had a goal, because I'm very interested in wilderness areas, and I had a goal of obtaining the 1 to 24,000 scale imagery for all of the wilderness areas in the U.S. And I worked on this project for years. I mean, not of course every day, but over the years I accumulated this unbelievable number of layers for that, and I made a pretty good dent in it. I mean, I printed it out in a notebook, and I mean, I had like a 150, 200 page notebook full of quad indexes to get and things like that, and I was going through and checking them off. I mean, I got a lot of them. But of course, they took up so much space that I had to keep dishing them off to different disks everywhere. And now trying to find that, by the time I find something, I could much more quickly go online and just download the quad from a site that's already up there. And I guess part of me felt like those sites might get pulled down someday, or that data might go away, and I wanted to get it while I could, And from over the years since working with this, I can tell you that a lot of that base data is going to be around for a long, long time. So don't feel like you have to get everything, even though the temptation is there. So enough said about that. But variety of tools, and what I mean by the variety of tools is, we're working with utilities such as the DLG to shape, the Tiger to shape. We'll work with some others here that you haven't seen yet. And there's a lot of different utilities out there that helps us to convert data from one format to another. And they're really essential for getting data a lot of times. So, not everything is going to be in a nice, neat shape file, already projected, already with the attributes like you want them, and all ready to go for you. Surprising amount of it is, but just realize that that's not always the case. And so you're going to inevitably run into some layer that you're going to have to kind of work with on your own, whether it's heads-up digitizing, or whether it's extrapolating some information out of another area in terms of attribute data and joining that into a table that you have for another layer already. Maybe it's trail names. Maybe you've got the trails, but you don't have the names of the trails, or who knows what that might be. But you're going to pull upon some different tools, and it might be Excel, it might be Microsoft Access, which I'm hoping we can talk about a little bit in this class. I can't get into it too much because we just don't have the time, but to me, Access is a really important and underutilized tool that we can use. So, those are some examples. Of course, like I mentioned, the GIS tools, I call them, the Tiger to shape, DLG to shape. You've got your DEM tool that we've used. So there's a variety of those out there, and we'll find some more, especially as we get into some of the spatial analysis. So anyway, that's what I mean by using a variety of tools. Communication and participation, I've added that section this year to this because I've found that that's one of the biggest areas, I guess, that it's easy to struggle with. We're not all good communicators. I'm certainly not the best. And we all can use practice on this aspect, I think. And if you think about it, when you hear, and it can be any subject you think of, but if you ask people what was wrong or what was the biggest issue on some aspect of something, whether it could be political, certainly political, but it could be anything. It could be, business related, research related. And here we're doing GIS analysis, and you're working as a team. And so the biggest thing that people come back and they'll say is, the communication. That was where we could have done better, was on communication. So I think it's important to emphasize that. So what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to make the communication and participation a little more emphasized on the grading on this than I have in the past, just to give you that extra incentive to make sure that you are participating and that you're communicating within your group. And again, if you ever run into any problems or have questions that is not being, you feel like, answered sufficiently, then be sure to let me know, and I will intervene and try to help clarify things, or give you some feedback. If you're looking for more information and you guys wonder just what in the world did he mean by this kind of analysis, then somebody in the group let me know, and I'll get back with you. And we'll practice our communication and participation a lot in this. And one other thing to say related to that is this is an online class, and I realize that a lot of you, or I shouldn't say a lot because I don't really know how many, but I know some of you are taking the in-person class, and some of you live closer to Oak Ridge, and you are able to work as a team. I mean, a study team and things like that, which is wonderful. And I'm not discouraging you from doing that at all. But realize that because this is an online class, and it depends on your group makeup, but the ones that I suspected are maybe working a little more together as a study team and things like that, I tried to kind of steer you in this similar group. But I'm not sure how good of a job I've done that. It wasn't my emphasis, but I did try to do that a little bit. But anyway, what I'm getting at here is that make sure that you don't leave anybody out in your group. If it gets to where two of you can meet but the others can't, and those two are meeting, it's fine. But what tends to happen is the group will split if you're not careful. And so you've got to really go out of your way to make sure that everybody has an equal chance to participate. And the best way I know to do that is to utilize some of these new tools that have become available recently. In the last year or two, it's amazing how many tools are now available to help with remote communications and stuff. And I would like to see everybody using those tools on this project. And so I'm going to encourage you to, in some cases, maybe reach out of your comfort zone. Some of you, they would certainly be that way for me because I'm just now starting to use a lot of these myself. Some of you may be pros already with using some of these tools, and you can help the rest of us, or especially those in your group. But try to utilize something like Google Plus, for example. Google Plus is a lot like Facebook, with the added advantage of forming what they call circles, where you can define who is in that circle. And so what you could do is create a circle for your team. And if everybody was using Google Plus and you guys had that same circle, you've got a great tool to get on there and communicate with, share notes and ideas. Of course, you can do a lot of this through email, and that's certainly encouraged as well. But if you do it through something like the Google Plus, it's instantaneous. Everybody can see it at the same time. You don't have to worry about copying each other on it. It just seems like it's a really efficient tool for something like this. And I think Facebook has added some stuff too to let you get a little more that way. And certainly you can use that if that's what you're comfortable with. And I use Facebook, but I haven't yet either figured out or become comfortable with how I can form just a little group in Facebook. So I know you can do that in Google Plus, but I don't want to require you to use any certain one of these programs because I want you to use something that you're comfortable with. But I would encourage you to experiment with that and see how that works. And keep me informed on that. Make me a member of that group if you don't mind, so I can kind of jump in and just like monitor a little bit, see how it's going, and if it I'm curious how well we can utilize some of these tools. And there's others out there as well, but that's one that comes to mind. And then on the data aspect, now this is a biggie because in the past what we had to do was actually, what I encourage people to do anyway, was get your base data together and then everybody burn what they have onto a disk and mail it to the team leader, and the team leader could consolidate all that and then send it back out, which was kind of a pain, and to say the least. And now there's lots of tools that have these data sharing capabilities. For example, there's one called Dropbox. There's another one, Google has just come out with one. And I love Google because Google has so many different tools and they make them all available for free. And it's just really wonderful resource. But Google has something called Google Drive. Okay, and then there's another one I just found out about that I tend to use a company called LogMeIn a lot, which lets me work remotely on my computer. So I can be at home and I can work like I'm sitting at my work computer, which I probably do too much. But or vice versa, I can be at work and I can bounce onto my home computer. Well, I've used that company for years, and now they've just released something called Cubby, and Cubby is very similar to Dropbox. But it's got some added advantages too, and I won't elaborate on all of them right now, but you can read about them if you go to their logmein.com site. But I'll post links in the coming weeks on our class to a lot of these different tools that I know about. I encourage you to share with me others that you come across or know about, and we'll see if we can't utilize those a little bit more this semester and see what kind of feedback we get on that. My main goal underlying all of this again is to most importantly encourage good communication and participation within your group, and anything we can do to help that, I'm all for it. And then secondly is to get you to utilize some of these new tools, especially the ones that are free. I'm not asking you to go out and spend a bunch of money, but a lot of these things are free, especially the ones we've just been talking about. But pick something that everybody can use, and that may be tough in some cases because some of us may already be using something and we're comfortable with it and we don't want to change. So I'll have to let you work that out. But try to pick something that everybody can agree on that you're going to use and or learn, and just play with it a little bit to see if it helps with some of these tasks. And on the things like Google Drive and stuff like that, by the way, what they'll do is usually they'll give you, like Google gives you, I think 5 gigabytes, a lot of them, worth of space. And 5 gigabytes will probably take care of most of your needs. There might be a few cases where you have more than that, but that's more than a DVD's worth of space. So, I think there can be a good way to share base data, especially. What we'll have to figure out is making sure that you take that data and copy it into your working folder once you get it, okay? So you'll think of it as an archive. You'll have an archive up there just as you would if you created an archive folder. And that archive is going to contain the master, so to speak, the master copy of your data. And you'll take that data and leave it in the archive, but you'll copy it from there and put it in your working folder. And if any of that changes on the archive, you'll have to copy it back out and put it in your working folder. But you'll be putting it in the same location, and as long as you don't rename these files, then it should be seamless. You should be able to take it and copy it over, and if you've already made a project referencing some of that data, it will still open that data because you'll have the same name and everything for it, see? So hopefully this makes sense to everybody. If not, let me know and I'll try to do a better job of explaining it, but it's pretty tough, especially doing this remotely like this. But I think a lot of you have encountered this enough that you know what I mean. And so we'll try it, see how it works. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback about it, and I think it will be very helpful. And the evaluation, I'm not going to go in too much right now on that because I'm still formulating some of the percentages in my head. I want to be fair about it, but I do want to, the things that we've talked about, basically, I'm going to put some percentages on that to give you an idea of the emphasis, but they're all going to be pretty close to each other. So you can, right now at this point, basically assume that the things we've talked about are going to be relatively equal in importance. I'll probably put a little more weight on the data, the data that you're obtaining and getting than I would some other factors. But for the most part, all of these are going to be important. But materials that you're going to turn in, okay, from this, you're going to, of course, you're going to put your data together, okay, on your deliverables. You're going to consolidate your data together. And again, you're going to be building these projects in a way that lets the team leader put all of this together at the end. And I don't want to put all of it just on the shoulders of the team leader, but in the end, somebody has to be responsible for turning in something. And I am asking the team leaders to assume that role. But utilize your team to help you put this together. And if you are very good about maintaining consistent directory structures, then it will be easy to put that together in the end. So trust me, that's really important. That will help a lot. So you'll in the end, you'll have data that all gets pulled together in one resource that can be burned onto DVD or maybe 2 DVDs if it takes that much. And everybody's efforts in that is organized in a way that I can identify what you did, but it's also together within that project folder. That makes sense. In other words, what I don't want is somebody say, well, here's this person's part of the project and here's this person's part of the project, and turn them in separate items. I'm going to sort of forcing you to pull all this together because, again, we're trying to simulate sort of a real world perspective on this. And in the end, that's what you would have to do, is come up with one item that you're turning in. In this case, your extra challenge is that you're doing it in a way that I can still see who did what parts of the project, which I'll mainly know because I'll know who was assigned the different parts. But you're getting, and I've put this in the assignment document. Another reason for doing this is because everybody's getting an individual grade on this project, which at first sounds a little funny because you think, well, it's a team, we should all have the same grade. And usually, to be honest with you, everybody gets the same grade. And those of you that have my classes before, you know I'm not that hard on the grading. I mean, I do give you a bit of work, but I'm not so critical that I'm just going to nail you on it unless you just totally blow something off. I mean, if you don't participate at all, if you don't try to encourage communication in your groups or something, I'm going to hit you pretty hard on that part of the grade. But my main goal is to make sure everybody is learning from all of this. And so I don't want to say don't worry about the grades, but don't place so much emphasis on the grades that it makes you paranoid about what you're doing. Let me put it that way. So where was I? Yeah, you're going to, in the end, you're going to pull all this together, okay? And you'll have disk material, digital material, and you'll have hard copy material. So with the projects and all of that, it needs to be well organized, all of it pulled together and submitted in that fashion. Then you're going to have some hard copy stuff. You're going to do a project report, which you'll also have. The neat thing about all this, when you're done with everything, you should end up with a digital copy and a hard copy of stuff. So you'll have a hard copy of your project report. You're going to make a presentation. You don't have to print that out, but if you want to, you can. But you'll have it in both digital and hard copy, and organize both. That's what I'm trying to get at. Take a notebook, put a cover on that thing, put some section tabs in it, organize the report in a way that you would if you're giving it to somebody that knew nothing about what we're doing, and then assume that they should be able to take your report and it makes sense to them. You know what I mean? It has some logic to it. It flows like chapters almost, I mean, it starts off with introduction to the area, perhaps, then maybe a summary of your findings as a whole, and then a section for each team member's part of the project, okay? And your data disk will be organized in a similar way. So you're going to do that. You're going to have a report. I'm always hesitant to put numbers on how many pages this needs to be and that kind of thing. It's but that's always asked, and I know it's important. But I don't want to limit you. But I can say is it's not enough to just do a page or two. You know what I mean? Just a little, do what is suited to your project, I guess. You're going to have 4 people contributing to this. Make sure all 4 people are doing some part of the report. And when it comes to doing your summary, if the team leader wants to take that added burden on, that's okay. If you do, make sure to run it by everybody and make sure everybody looks at it and gives their 2 cents worth. Or you can split it up amongst the team however you want. That's one of the good things about being team leaders. In the end, you make some of these calls on how you divide things up. But do it in a way that everybody's contributing, I guess is the thing. And at the same time, it's all pulled together logically. And however long it takes for that report, don't go crazy with it, But, each person needs to describe, what they did, their part of the project, what they did and what they found out. And you're going to want to include some maps as well in this. And what I would do is just take them straight out. I would make PDFs. I think everybody knows how to use the export and make a PDF. You can also do a screen capture of your layout or your view window, whichever is most appropriate. And you can put that into your report. Now, a lot of your presentation can come straight out of the report. And I think that's in my mind, some people do it the other way around, but to me, I like having a report to do my presentation, because then I focus on my report, get that ready, and then I pull my presentation out of that report. Again, some people do it just the other way around, whichever works for you. But but you'll have some similar, they'll be similar. Your presentation will be sort of a condensed version of your report in the end. And so you'll have similar information in both, but they won't be identical. Okay, your report will be a little more thorough than what your presentation would be. But make sure you credit your sources that you used. Include some type of metadata. I'm not going too crazy on metadata, but it's more important than it was, say, in the fall classes. So you do want to include, but if you include printouts, for example, of the sites where you got these downloads from, you don't have to, not every page on the site, but the part that is pertinent to the data that you used. And a lot of times you can go to, they'll have a link, an info link or something, and it will tell you a lot of details just about that. It'll be a true metadata file is what I'm saying, about the layer you used. That's the kind of stuff you want to make sure to have and include. Okay. And again, don't go too crazy with this, but make sure you are documenting especially your base data. And then in your notes, if you change that base data in any way to customize it to your needs, make sure that you note that somewhere. And then if you do, which you will, you'll make some assumptions on some of your analyses. Make sure that you describe your analyses a little bit, and make sure that you also include the assumptions that you made. So again, somebody should be able to replicate what you did and get the same results. That's the idea here. And this will give you really good practice with that. So you're going to have a variety of those things in your report, and so therefore it's going to be a little bit longer than, say, it would have been in the 210 class when you were working on an individual project. But try to make it up pretty neat. Don't worry about making large printouts. If you've got access to that and you want to do that, I'm not saying don't do it, but I don't want you to feel like everybody has to print out these huge wall maps and things like that. Make some PDF files, print them out on 8.5 by 11 paper, and stick them in there with your report as appropriate for the sections that they go with. And then be sure to include some of those in your presentation as well with PowerPoint. So that's another part of this. You are going to do the presentation. Make sure everybody again participates, at least for their sections, and that will make it, that will spread the burden a little bit. And most of you did a really good job on this part last fall, and so I'm real comfortable that everybody knows how to do that, and can do it good enough to suit me for sure. So if you need help with that, or if you're new this semester and you're really uncomfortable with PowerPoint, let me know. I'll be glad to steer you to some references and things that can help. What else? I think that's about it for that part. You've got it all there in black and white there. You can read through, and if you have questions, let me know. When you submit this, I put the submission date again is May 1st. It's on a Wednesday, right in the middle of the week. 4 p.m. That's when they close at Oak Ridge. But try to make sure that everything is submitted by that day. It's really important because I have 3 classes this semester, and it's important to give me enough time to grade them and get the grades submitted. Roane State is really picky about the date for submitting the grades, and much pickier than, say, UT, for example. At UT, you have like 3 weeks from the end of classes to submit grades. At Roane State, the classes end on Monday, and that Friday of that same week, grades have to be in. So there's no way we could turn everything in on Monday and get it graded by Friday. So I've got it set for May 1st on submitting these, and I know a lot of you will probably bring them in person, but there'll be maybe one group or 2 groups that might not be able to do that. I'm not sure. So either way is fine. Just make sure that it gets put to my box, and I've given my address and information there. You have my phone number from the syllabus if you ever need to call me about anything. Don't panic, and don't feel like I'm going to give you a 0 because you did something wrong on some aspect of this. It's all a learning experience, but do try to be prompt with the submission date there if you can, which means planning and trying not to do everything at the last minute. So, and with those of you that are taking extra classes, that's easier said than done sometimes, I know from experience. So again, just don't go crazy with it, but like I say, don't go crazy, but don't be lazy. So, make sure that you plan on this. And you're working as a team so you can help each other in that regard. Now I've got at the very end of the assignment, I've got a proposed project timeline. I'm not going to go through all of that here, but I just wanted you to note that this was just my way to get you started. You take this and reorganize it, add to it any way that works for you. Some of you may even want to use Google Calendar or something. Whatever works for you as a group and a team leader is fine with me. Do let me know, though, by the way, what you did use, because all of that counts towards that part of the grade of organizing and things like that. Not that it's going to give you a 0 if you don't use a calendar. I'm not saying that, but I will give credit when I know people are doing a really good job of being organized and planning. So I think it's important. But glance at that, and you'll notice that I'm going to have, I've got listed some meetings. I've got team leader meetings and team member meetings. Hopefully they're not too confusing there, but my main idea, what I'll do is I'll ask you to submit to me a brief update on some periodic basis to let me know how things are going. And sometimes I'll get with just the team leaders to kind of see, how's it going with your teams? Is everybody communicating, participating, any problems, things like that? And then from the team members, similar information. I'm mainly looking, on your specific analyses, though, how is it going with you? Is that going okay? And then with your team, is your team leader contacting you? Are you getting information to your team leader? Does everybody have each other's numbers? Can you contact each other and that kind of thing? So you'll want to make sure to share contact information right away. Of course, I assume a lot of this is common sense, but it's important to emphasize, share an email address, share an alternative email address it's probably a good idea. It's funny, I always tell people, in case momentum goes down, I ask everybody to send me their phone numbers and addresses, and lo and behold, momentum went down the other day. It's not went down very often, especially that long. But it does go down. If we were ever in the middle of a test or something and it goes down, that's when it really becomes more critical, which luckily hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm always paranoid that it will. But make sure you can contact each other, and make sure if you've got certain times you don't want to be contacted or after a certain hour, make sure you share that too, and everybody try to respect that. I want everybody to feel comfortable, but I don't want you to feel so paranoid about it that I just want everybody to maintain communications, but in a way that fits each other's lifestyles, I guess. So we, a lot of us we're all busy, I think, and then some of us more busy than others. So I'll let you guys work those kinds of details out. But keep that kind of stuff in mind when you're doing your planning, and do make some kind of a plan to where you can assess if you're on track with things or not. The idea here is that there should never be a point in time that you're wondering how you're doing, because you've got a list that you've made as a team, and you guys know where you stand. So the only thing it might be is a matter of periodically reporting to the team leader, and the team leader is going to report that back to me, for example, to make sure everybody's where they thought they were going to be. And if you need to adjust the schedule you come up with, then you guys adjust that as you need to. Just make sure, again, that you're communicating as a group with that. So, and in the presentations, what I'll do, like I did last semester, I'll post those on Momentum so everybody can see those. Now, just a couple other things, and we'll wrap it up. I do have some presentations from previous years' groups, and a lot of times people ask me, "Oh, can you post those?" And I'm thinking about that. And part of me wants to post them, and then part of me doesn't. But I think I probably will post some of them. The reason I'm hesitant sometimes is because I don't want you one to copy what other people had did just because you think that was the way to go, which I'm not saying you would, but the main thing is I don't want you to think that because this group did this, then that's fine for me. What I'd rather you do is look at these as examples of things you might do, try to get some ideas from them. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because some of these may inevitably be either the same areas that others are working in this year, but I'm going to try to avoid that. But I want to give you some good examples, but at the same time, I don't want you to feel tied down to those, that you have to do just what you saw in those examples. or that there's necessarily a right or a wrong in this. And so what I post, just be aware that if I do post these, it doesn't mean they all got A's. It doesn't mean that they're the way you should do it. It's just meant to be for what they are at face value. This is what a group did in the previous year. And now I will say that everybody's had similar guidelines for the last few years. So you will see a lot of things that you'll probably be able to use, and feel free to do that. But again, just look at these as examples of potential things that you might do. And also realize that what you're seeing is just one tiny aspect. You're seeing the presentation. But remember that reports go along with this, and the data organization and all your projects, and the bulk of your materials are stuff outside of the presentation. But at least this will give you an idea of what some people did in the past, and that might be useful. And again, if anything, look at it like, how can I improve on it? You know what I mean? Take it and say, well, boy, this is what they did, and I really like this, but I didn't like this, and I would do it this way. And feel free to take those kinds of attitudes with stuff and say, well, how can I improve on what I saw? That's the way I would look at it. So I'll probably will post those, but just keep those points in mind when you're looking through those. All right, I'm going to shut up. I've been going for quite a while. I'm getting dry, and I'm kind of new at this, especially with the webcam. I hope this was helpful. Give me some feedback. Let me know. I tried this with the 211 class the other day, and it's the very first one I ever made. So this is the second one I've ever made. So hopefully it wasn't too boring, but hopefully it makes it a little more informal, a little more personal as well. And I didn't want you to get just an 11-page assignment and feel overwhelmed. So there's a lot of stuff in here, but we've got 3 months nearly to work on it, 2.5 months anyway, and working on it with 4 people. So we've got a lot of resources on our side. So we'll work on these projects throughout the semester. I give them out early just so you have that plenty of time, but we will be doing a lot of other stuff in the class. So this is something that's going on in the background at this point. And what I would like to get from you all very soon would be your study area. And again, that's sort of a first come, first serve. So make sure to let me know right away which area you want. And you'd probably be wise to let me know an alternative as well, because if somebody has already grabbed it, then you'd have to get back with your group again to decide the next area. So maybe get a first and a second choice. And then I will post those so everybody knows what each other's working on. And then coming up pretty soon, I'm going to ask you for like a tentative listing. Probably I'll ask the team leaders for this, but a tentative listing of what analyses people are doing for their part of the project. And realize that can change. I'm not a stickler that, once you decide it, you have to do that. I would rather you have some flexibility if needed. But do think about it up front. And so, some of these you're going to say, man, I'd really like to do that, but I have no idea how to do it. And realize that some of those we'll cover in the class. We're not going to cover all of those by any means, but once I know what you want to work on, then that lets me know a little more what I might can cover in the coming weeks. So that helps me to plan a little bit on what I share with you as well. So I'll ask you for a tentative listing of the analysis that each person's going to do. And so be ready to contribute that to your team leader, and then team leaders be ready to dish that over to me here pretty soon. And we don't have to do it immediately, though, so you've got a little while on that. And I'll send you some reminders and stuff like that about it. But you do want to pick your area right away. And if you've got any questions at all, let me know. Team lists, I'll be posting those here right away, so everybody will know who's on your team. And you guys can start the communication. And we'll go from there. So it should be interesting. Enjoy this project. Have fun with it. Work hard on it, but don't let it dominate your entire GIS world. A lot of you are working in other classes, on other projects, and you're busy, and I realize that. So don't let this overwhelm you. If you take the time to do small bits of it throughout the next 2.5 months, it'll all come together in the end. The key is to make sure you're moving forward with it, and that you're communicating, and that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. That's the key. And we'll we'll get into a routine. Each group will get into a routine. And sometimes it's a little bumpy, a little rocky at first, and then it smooths out. And every once in a while, it doesn't. So keep me posted on how things are going, if I can help in any way. And I think you'll find this a pretty realistic process. And doing it in an online world is even more interesting. So start looking at some of those tools that I mentioned and thinking about ideas that you can come up with on how you can make your teams be more cohesive. So I'll shut up with that, and I will be talking with you soon.